Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the As Yet Unnamed podcast. I am your host, Ian Barstow. In today's episode, we are joined by photographer Krisztina Kobanyai. As ever, thank you very much for downloading this episode of the podcast. If you want to hear us every single week, then click on the subscribe and like button, and we will appear every single Monday morning at 6 a.m. Right, without further ado, let's get into the podcast, and I hope you enjoy this really interesting conversation with Krisztina. Hello and welcome to today's episode of the podcast, and in today's show we are joined by Krisztina, photographer, and lots of other things we will find out as we go along during the course of this episode. Good afternoon, Krisztina, how are you?
Hi, good afternoon. I'm all right. How are you?
Yes, good, thank you. We are recording this on the 7th of June 2020. We are, of course, in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic, which we have all been involved in for the last 2 months or so. It seems a lot longer. So I'll ask, I'm asking pretty much everyone I'm doing an interview with at the moment. How's lockdown affected you? And are you sort of coping with the being at home all the time?
So, yeah, it was a bit difficult to get used to, I suppose. First, working from home, which I wasn't used to as such. And yeah, it's just been so many days and weeks now. I honestly lost count. But, well, first of all, being at home, being healthy, I didn't really think it was, oh God, what am I saying now? At least we are healthy. That's the whole point. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's difficult to be on your own in the middle of the pandemic. But as such as like being on my own or living on my own, I'm used to. But the fact as just not being able to see anyone if you wanted to, and yeah, just the whole situation, and there's just more chaos going on. It's honestly could be overwhelming sometimes. But yeah, I mean, good days, worse days.
Have you got you've got a cat, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yes. Is that helping with the keeping you sane?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Honestly, yeah, it would be really difficult if wouldn't have him. I'm just looking for if I can find, but he's honestly the most antisocial cat you could find. So as much as it's good to have company, he's not so much of a company, really.
See, this is why I'm a dog person rather than a cat person. I much prefer dogs to cats, definitely.
Yeah, I love all sorts of animals, but for my lifestyle and being renting as well, I really wanted to have a dog because that's so much more responsibility. Cat, you can just leave on their own; they're fine as long as you feed them, they're happy, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So
yeah, a dog is very much me, 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 me. Look at me, look at me, look at me. Whereas a cat is get away from me, don't touch me.
Yeah. I mean. He's really cute and really funny, and yeah, I just even taking pictures of the weirdest like lying down sleeping poses you could imagine. Even just laughing at him is just brilliant. So yeah.
You need to do that viral video on TikTok or Instagram. That's what you need.
Yeah.
Cat videos on all of them seem to be very popular. So we met briefly. You came to the camera club I'm a member of when you were in your previous position with a certain photography company. So when did you get started in photography? Where did your interest in photography come from?
Quite early age, really. I remember stealing my dad's film camera and then stealing my brother's film cameras, and as pursuing as like a profession or taking it more seriously rather than just taking snaps. I think was around shortly after I moved to the UK, because I could actually afford a camera.
Yeah.
uh, so yeah, when I got my first DSLR, like everybody does, and then getting to know photography a bit more, and obviously going through all the boring terms and yeah, you know,
Which I still don't understand all of them at all. They get more and more confusing.
yeah. So yeah, I would say about, I don't even know, 6, 7 years ago. And then work with various photographers as a freelancer, was helping them out. And then at some point, I had 2 jobs plus trying to pursue my freelance photography business. Yeah, it was just a bit too much, so didn't really go too well. But yeah, that interest remains still. And even though that I'm not with a particular company anymore, and well, not having any equipment as such, now it's a little bit a little bit sad.
Yes, no, I can.
No, actually, I need to buy cameras now.
Like the rest of us, join the club.
Yeah. So yeah, but I will carry on still.
So I so obviously I presume we can mention the company you used to work for, Olympus, and you were you came and did a presentation, and you had all of these camera, all of, I think, every lens and every and
Yep.
I walked in, and because I'm an Olympus shooter as well, and I walked in, I was like, oh, look at all that stuff, and then but none of it was yours. It's all had to go back.
Yep.
Oh dear.
Well, actually going back tomorrow. So I packed it up. Everything's in the box now. I'm just like looking at it.
That's quite an expensive insurance on that package, I would imagine, as well. There's a lot of equipment there.
Yeah, a good job is somebody's picking it up rather than
Yes.
posting it, because it would also be a really expensive one to post.
Yeah, I can imagine. So what was your first, what was the first camera you had? Was it Canon, Nikon, or
Canon.
Canon?
Yeah. I remember my friend who had a Canon camera. I was like, okay, so if I get one, I can maybe use his lenses. So that was a good starting point. But that's what usually people go for, is whoever's of a certain brand in their family or friend circle. That usually the starting point.
So yeah, I was Canon. I started off with Canon, the 100D, which I think was their cheapest DSLR at the time. And then I made the decision to move over to Micro Four Thirds. But I think, and there's lots of discussion and arguments and all of that about full frame, crop sensors, Micro Four Thirds. It's not always the equipment you have, it's the person that's behind it. The person that's got the camera, I think, is more important than the actual equipment.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't need a camera that costs thousands and thousands of pounds and lenses that got thousands and thousands of pounds to take really nice photos. You just need to have not even skill, but just a bit of knowledge about how photography works. But then I always get a bit annoyed when I put competition entries into the club, and it's like, oh, it's not on the mic, it's not on the 4/3 line, and it's you're doing that bit wrong. The light's not right, and I'm thinking, go away, sticking to your rules.
Yeah, the rules are meant to be broken. It's not. It's great to learn about them, and obviously, as a total beginner, to get started with those and following them. But once you maybe even kind of get bored of them, or you find your way of photography, your taste, don't know really how to put into words. I think that then you will suddenly find yourself like, actually, yeah, it looks really good that way, but you find it that if you misplace it somehow, it will suit that particular one. a bit more. So yeah, I'm a believer of learning about the rules,
Yeah.
but then yeah, once you know, then you can.
Help them to create something different for you. I think.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, if they criticize you because it's not on the third line, then yeah, just carry on.
If I hear another judge go, "Oh, that's a little dark," or "That's a little," and it's like that's the idea of the picture. But then
Yeah,
photography
yeah,
is such a personal thing, like any form of art. Some people
exactly.
will really like it, some people won't. But if you like it, I always think if it's the photo you like, then that's the most important thing. Unless you've got a client paying you lots of money to photograph something for you, and you don't always want to do it to your tastes.
Yeah, yeah, been there, done that.
um,
Yeah,
so let's go back. You said you moved to the UK about 6 or 7 years ago.
gonna be 9 years now this year.
9 years. Okay. So where did you move from?
I'm coming from a really small town in the middle of Hungary
Yep.
called Dunaföldvár.
I won't try and re-pronounce that.
Yep. Don't worry, because there are just some letters which is not even found in English, so don't worry. So yeah, that was nearly 9 years ago.
So what made you move? What made you come to the UK from Hungary? What was the decision to move over?
Well, partly I knew that I wasn't happy with my current situation, with the current job I had. I was an accountant and payroll assistant, and I was learning the ropes of doing all sorts. But honestly, I found it really boring, and I thought, this is not me. I need to be something a bit more creative. And I wanted to learn the language as well. And also, a man came along who also lived it, but he's not. He is. He is Hungarian, and they kind of pushed me over the edge of moving.
Yeah.
And made the decision to, well, after meeting about 3 times, then made the decision to sell all my stuff and then move over totally and move with him as well at the same time.
Whirlwind romance. I think that is.
Yeah, well, we're not together anymore, but but we both learned pretty valuable lessons from that relationship. So no, we're not regretting any second of it.
And what's it like? So obviously, I've never been to Hungary. I'm not. I don't know what the culture is like in Hungary. But what's it like moving over to a brand new country? Did you speak English at the time?
I would say about 10%, because I used to learn it in school, of course.
Yeah.
But when I finished with school and then moved into this job, I didn't use at all. And in 4 years, you can lose quite a lot as well.
Yeah.
As well as textbook English, I found is very different to the English you actually speak. And when I first moved over, I actually moved to Yorkshire as well. So yeah, broad Yorkshire accent was a bit hard to get used to.
I can. Well, my dad's from Yorkshire, so I am half Yorkshire, and I've lived in the Midlands for pretty much all of my life, but so has my dad for the last 40 odd years. But as soon as he goes back to York and he starts speaking to his family, the Yorkshire accent just clicks back in.
It's
really
so funny, isn't it?
Yeah, really, really strange. It's a couple of hours and he's back talking like they do up there. So what was it like when you first arrived in the UK? So we're 9 years ago. So what are we? 2001? 11. 2001. God. It's just yeah. 2001 was only 9 years ago. No, that was 19 years ago.
Yeah.
So 2011, just before the Olympics, 2012. We've gone downhill from there, but let's not go into that.
Yeah.
Well, what was it like when you landed in the UK? You could speak some English, not a lot. How did you find the culture? How did you find people? And what was your experience like on that sort of first couple of years being in the UK?
God, it feels like it was ages ago. It was difficult to get used to, obviously finding a job, yeah, learning the language fairly quickly to be able to actually find a job. But I found that people were nice, welcoming. I didn't experience too much as a kind of experience saying like, "Oh, you're a foreigner."
Yeah.
Yeah. And those kind of things. But yeah, overall a really good experience. And yeah, once I actually be able to speak the language, I felt more comfortable as well, because I was just like, oh my god, what is it gonna be like? I need to speed up and learn the language quickly. So,
do you think it's changed from your point of view? Sort of, do you think the British culture has changed now? Do you think it would be as easy now for someone to come and move over here and work and live over here?
honestly, I don't know, because it's been such a long time, and with obviously leaving the EU and all of that jazz, been going on. I don't really know how much has changed. A long time now.
Yeah.
But I remember saying like the pop culture was something which is not really a Hungarian thing.
Yeah.
I mean, we do have pubs, but just to go and have a beer like every day after work, that kind of stuff, that was totally different.
Do you miss living in Hungary, or do you think you go back, or are you no?
No. Honestly, every single time I talk to my my friends or family back home, so like, don't bother. It's nothing better here. It's not going to be. It looks like it's going to be actually worse. But yeah, in all seriousness, they say like, yeah, it would be nice to see you, and we're meant to be going home soon as well. But obviously, with pandemic hit, everything was cancelled, and
Yeah.
maybe we'll see each other in October, hopefully.
You said that you were doing some working for some other photographers, and you started your own. Did you start your own photography business?
Yeah, yeah, it's still up on Facebook. It's like I'm still open to business, but in seriousness, I haven't actually done much since I used to have a job in a photo studio.
Yeah.
Then I was doing freelance on the side as well. But when I started to work with Olympus, and I actually needed to move from Yorkshire to the Midlands for the job, and it was all just way too much to think about, like all the moving, getting used to the new environment, the new job role, and yeah, I kind of also lost a bit of I don't know, not inspiration probably. I'm just trying to find the right word. I wasn't inspired as much with photography anymore in terms of actually doing my own work.
Yeah.
I always steered towards portraiture, and that's what I would still do now. But because of that experience I had with the previous job, I kind of lost maybe an interest, and then Olympus came along and kind of like sparked my interest back into photography. Now I've got all the time in the world, so yeah, I've been thinking of what's next and how's it going to be like. But with the quarantine and pandemic and all of that going on still, it's going to be quite difficult to do in a traditional way. So
Yeah.
if I would ever do something like that again, like portrait photography, then it would have to be socially distant.
A very long zoom lens.
Yeah. And also I don't have any cameras at the moment, so it's yeah.
So portrait is portrait the photography, the line where your interest is in photography then, the portrait side of it.
Yeah, yeah. It always has been, I say. I've done some event photography and weddings, but everything it was always evolved around people. So, but in an ideal situation, it would be just fashion, beauty, stuff kind of portraits, which is not including a whole day of running after brides and grooms and just kids kicking the ball and things like that. I literally have done all sorts with other photographers and my friends. So
See, I've never shot a wedding. I've shot a christening. I did a christening for a friend, and that was quite small. I am always wary of wedding photography because I always think it is such a day for the bride and the groom and the family, and it just feels like so much pressure to get it right for them. Plus, you also get the horrible brides and the horrible grooms and the stressed people at weddings. So yeah, it's never something I've really wanted to get into. I always think it's where the money is. If you're doing photography, wedding is probably one of the best places to make your money. But yeah, the thought of doing weddings every single week is just like, oh.
yeah, I'm 100% on your side.
Models in a studio is fine. It's or people in a studio doing portraits is a lot. I think it's a lot easier than a wedding or big event photography.
Yeah, and you also have more flexibility to be creative. Whereas with brides and grooms and their family, it's very rare that you actually have the time, as well as they were willing to do things which you think it would suit them. So like depending on the location where they are and the different poses and things like that. But if let's say you've got like 5 minutes to capture them, there is no way that you're going to be able to do all of your creative stuff. So then you just, yeah, it's extremely stressful. You just have to think about on the spot what you can do. And that's why it was the only reason I was doing a couple, because I was a second shooter for my friend. He was actually shooting the whole thing. Because if I would have been doing it on my own, I'm like, hell no. This is all too much. And then with my anxiety would just trigger and I was like out of the door. No.
So that's why I like I do macro, quite a lot of macro work, and motorsport photography is a real passion for me, and I think it's that no human contact side of it. It's just easier.
Yeah,
a lot easier.
great for pandemic.
Yes, yeah, it's as a macro photography in this current time is brilliant because it's about the only thing you can take photos of. Can't go anywhere to take photos, that's for certain.
Yeah.
What are you looking to do? Are you looking to? Do you want to get back into doing photography once you've got your own equipment, etc., or is it something? Are you now looking for a different path to go down?
I've been thinking quite strongly about this since I haven't actually got a job right now. What's next? Never mind in the next 5 years, like in the next 5 months. Photography is definitely going to be big part of my life still, and I think I'm just going to take it in a different way and also pursue things I've been pretty passionate about in the last, say, 5-6 years on the top of photography, which has mainly been self-development, as I found out that I've also suffered a really bad depression for like a really young age until I was about 25. So even when I moved here and started a new life and all of that, and it was just we would just find out that actually the way I feel is supposedly not normal. So coming out of that and how to kind of overcome these things, fighting with anxiety, self-doubt, anything people normally say that women might suffer with, when I know actually loads of my friends who've been chatting about these deep stuff, and they say the same. So I think sharing my journey in a perspective of kind of what would be the right word for this? In a perspective of self-development, and just overcoming all of these obstacles. I think it would be my main focus now. And now when you actually invited me to this podcast, I was like, I'm not even that interesting person. Like, why would you choose me? Especially like all the upcoming guests you've got. I was thinking like I should really put something down to that table, surely. So even I was also thinking about podcasts. Well, I've been thinking about these things for about 5-6 years now. So it's the time is to not to think about it anymore, but actually do something and make a plan. So this is what I've been doing in the past 2 weeks, is to write down what I really want to do.
Yeah.
And hoping that I can actually make that happen.
See, I started this. I've had a YouTube channel for 10 years. On and off, I've been putting stuff on, and now I'm trying to do quite a lot more on the YouTube channel. And the podcast, I've thought of doing a podcast where I used to do hospital radio and local radio 10, 12 years ago. So to get back behind a microphone has been really enjoyable. And I think it was something that I'd thought about for a long time, and then thought, right, current situation, let's just do it, and let's see where we go and see what happens. Because people are if you ask people, they'll either say yes or no, they want to do it, and people will either listen or not. So hopefully by the time this goes out, we've got tens of thousands of listeners and not just 10. It'd be nice. Do you mind talking about the mental health side of it? Because it's a massive issue now. It's a massive issue for most people throughout. At some point in their life, will suffer some sort of mental health crisis. That might be a minor one, like really bad stress over losing a job or something, or it may be a major event in their life and require lots of help to get over it. When looking back now, that you said you were have you been diagnosed with anxiety and depression?
Yeah.
When looking back at your life now, can you sort of point where this started and where, or has it always been that you've always felt the way you felt and didn't really realize that until you either sort of went to see the doctor or saw a therapist? Or
this pretty much been my entire life, and that's why, and that's so dangerous, because if you don't see anybody who kind of points it out that this is not the way you're supposed to feel, for me the point was when you always picture yourself like, oh, this is going to be the most amazing holiday on the beach somewhere far away, and for me as a small town Hungarian girl, the Canarian Islands was that distant dream. So if that's going to happen, that your life is pretty good, and you should be also super excited and glad that you can visit this place you always wanted to dream, or always wanted to be, and you were dreaming about. And it became a reality when I was still together with my with that boyfriend I mentioned. So when I moved to the UK, and I just didn't feel happy. I couldn't, and I then that was the point when I realized that I should be super grateful and really happy that I'm there,
Mm-hmm.
because that was something I was dreaming about when I was a little girl. And that was the kind of like, oh, hang on a minute, this is not right. So we have to, something needs to be found, done. And in a culture of in Hungary, if you would see a psychologist with something like this, they would, like your family, your friends even would feel like you are going mad,
Yeah.
because of, they don't really see that as a problem, because it's so difficult. And even in this country, I see most of the time that if it's not something physical, there's physically something wrong with you, then there is a, well, yes, it's in your head, but it's a serious issue. And if you don't address this, if you don't find out that what exactly your situation is and what you need to do, that yeah, in seriousness, well, if we are diving quite deep into it, I can remember when I was like 12,
Yeah.
12, 13, that I genuinely wanted to kill myself.
Okay.
I was at that stage, but it's because of my upbringing. It was quite difficult with the family I didn't have,
Yeah.
the way they treated me, and all that. So it's definitely coming from, it's rooting from there. And it's something which never improved as such. So this was always, I think, a root cause of how I always felt about myself. So it's like, it's no confidence at all, until actually Olympus gave me a lot with the job, because of all the responsibilities and everything. So it's all until literally like 2 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
when I had still no confidence, even though I was on my own, making a life to myself, finally learned the language, things like you should be celebrating, and kind of take credit for it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't the case. And I think because of all these things that happened and all these things I've learned, for me, as a personal experience point of view, it would be the way to go, what I want to do next. And yeah, it just makes sense. But it's still like, this thing is with bloody anxiety, like, okay, what should I do? Podcast. Okay, how should I do it? But then, and then until I was thinking about it so much that you kind of like, oh, just don't bother, you can't do it. And this has been like every bloody year.
Yeah.
For, I can't even remember. I'm probably like 6. Then you just have these brilliant ideas, and this is what is going to help people, and this is actually matter. So it would worth actually pushing and pursuing. And then next day you just feel like, well, how can I talk about this if I still feel this way? So,
And did you get therapy for it? And does it help to talk to somebody that is no relation, isn't a friend, isn't a someone you actually know, but is basically a stranger that you're talking to? Did you go down that route for, and if you did, does that help?
Yeah, that was the pointing out process. So when we actually went to a couples therapy session, because we had issues in our relationship, and that's when I figured and found out that this is my problem, and he figured out of his as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it was beneficial for both of us. And yeah, first of all, I got medication prescribed. So I was taking went from 10 milligrams to all the way to 40, I think. within a span of 8 months. And quickly realized that this is not going to be a sustainable option.
Yeah.
But to point out that you shouldn't feel that way, you should feel this way. So it should be a not permanent low, but a permanent, like a good level.
Yeah.
There's nothing particularly upsetting happening to you. Nothing super exciting, but nothing low. That it should be a good. You should be feeling good about yourself, just as a minimum, if that makes sense. So that's when I started to look into other ways to kind of getting rid of medication, because that could only do so much, and if you stop doing it, then you kind of go back to the stage was before. So realizing that this is an issue, it needs to be addressed and controlled. Started reading books, started listening to podcasts, and trying to find a way that I'm thinking differently, and sustain that different thinking, but also equally having a better lifestyle, moving a lot more, working out, good food, everything kind of goes well together. So if I just even realize now, if I eat rubbish, then I don't just feel physically bad, but I emotionally feel bad as well. So
I think we're just starting to learn, aren't we, that it's everything is connected, in as much as you say, if you exercise more, if you're sat at home, sat on the sofa watching TV, and that's all you do, it tends to be that you have nothing else to think about. So the thoughts come back in, and sort of your brain starts to question all this sort of stuff. If you do things like exercise, I don't do enough exercise, I know I don't, but if I do go out for a walk twice a day, I walk the dog, and then I go out at lunchtime, so I get fresh air, and you get out of the house and all of that sort of, particularly now, very important to get out if you can. But again, so the exercise, the healthy eating, I think we're starting to realize now that the amount of processed food you have, and the non-natural sources of food really does impact on you more than just making you feel bleh. It makes your brain go bleh, and that just makes it worse. And then, so are you continuing that therapy now? Do you feel like you're in a better place now than you were 2 years ago, or and do you think that it's something that you're going to have to live with now for the whole of your life, or do you think it's something that you can overcome completely, or it'll always be there?
I hope that would be the case of overcoming it completely. This when I first figured out these sessions, I think it was about, trying to remember, 2023, 24. It was a while ago now, but we only had a couple sessions, so that was the kind of, okay, pointed out, prescribed medication, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't in terms of an ongoing conversation, like every now and again. So I needed to find a way that I can sort with myself, and it's when you are depressed, that's pretty hard.
Yeah.
So, but learning the way to see that if you're going down in that kind of same bad thought pattern, then you kind of catch yourself and bring yourself back. I've been practicing that and learning how to do that in since then. So it's been about 5-6 years, and I only now coming to the terms of, like, I don't feel depressed. That's probably been like the last 2 years, but anxiety still triggers every single time if a situation comes along which I'm either not familiar with, or I'm pushing myself out of my comfort zone, and like talking in front of the camera was one of them. And
Yeah.
I mean, this is not giving me anxiety attack now.
Good.
And I'm like, I'm doing an interview. I mean, but like in many of these terms, Olympus was really good to help me through it, because it pushed me out of my comfort zone constantly. And while I was like, anxiety level was like up here, I could overcome these in a certain amount of time, and then it kind of gives you confidence that you can do these things, and then you feel better afterwards. But until you overcome this, it's like
It's well, obviously, because when you came to the camera club, we're only a small, I think there was 15 people there or something like that, but still the thought of standing up in front of one person and doing a 2 hour and a half 2 hour presentation would just be the worst thing in the world. So
yeah, oh my god, I remember my first camera club, like the one I did and we met. I honestly thought I'm gonna die. I was that anxiety level, and then you have to fake that confidence you haven't got yet. You obviously know what you're talking about, because after gaining a couple months of experience with the job, then you learn about the cameras, the technology, everything, and that side is okay. But it's a totally different ball game when you have to talk about this in front of X amount of people, even if it would be just the one. Having a proper PowerPoint presentation, have to be like everything is connected well and working well. It's guaranteed that it will break down somehow. If the PowerPoint doesn't go, it will something happen along the lines. And if you're doing it first time as well, guaranteed everything is going wrong. And yeah, your anxiety is like up there. And trying to do a presentation in my second language, that was like the other trigger for me. It's like, will I actually be able to talk like constantly and will make sense, rather than
yeah, it's,
you know,
it's I say I don't what was I going to say? Oh, brain fog. Oh yeah. So I think I'm quite confident now, doing presentations, I've got used to being on the camera when I'm doing my YouTube videos, because you literally sat in your room recording them yourself, and there's no one else around. So if you mess up, no one knows. And I think that does help. But also, I found radio in particular, because when I first joined hospital radio back in Redditch in a number of years ago, I would never speak in front of a microphone at all. I still don't like the sound of my own voice now. If I hear back, it's like, ugh. But then that's always the way.
I hate it as well.
But I think the radio side of it gave me a massive amount of confidence when I'm in a radio station, because it's literally no one can see you. It's you and the microphone, all of that sort of stuff. But then that did slowly build up my confidence out and about. And I remember I presented we did an outside broadcast and we did a live concert, and I was presenting bands on stage. It wasn't a massive concert. There was like a few hundred people there, but I thought I'd never do that. If I was talking to myself when I was back at school, it's like, no chance you'd do that. And I think it's never as bad as you think it's going to be. I always think when you're doing a presentation, if you're doing a presentation at work or something like that, it can build up and build up and build up inside you. And you think, oh, it's going to be rubbish. It's going to be really bad. And then when you actually do it, it's like, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And I think that's how you've got to have the confidence in yourself, which is easier for some people than others. I'm going to plug another podcast now, because I recorded a podcast with Jack Forster called the Mental Case Podcast. And he's someone that's has depression and anxiety and all of that. And he started his own podcast talking about mental health. So it's a really good listen as well. So if you're looking for a podcast that doesn't preach to you about mental health, but talks to you about mental health. I'm going to have a listen to the Mental Case podcast. Have a search on YouTube, on the podcast apps.
Absolutely, will do. Yeah, sounds like the perfect one for me because I'm clearly a mental case.
No. Do you so do you enjoy listening to do you find listening to podcasts and listening to people that have had and are suffering from mental health issues, do you find that useful, because it makes you realize that you're not the only person that is feeling this?
Yeah, I think that's very important, and that's the kind of thing it also gives me strength in a way that I should really do this and kind of talk about from my point of view, and again, not like preaching, but sharing my experience, and if somebody, even just one person along the line, can help, that it's worthwhile doing. I haven't actually listened to many people, as I know that they also struggle with mental health problems. So the one you just recommended will be one. The ones I've been listening to recently, they've all been about personal growth.
Yeah.
So mainly about like business skills, just personal skills. So yeah, it's was something specifically for mental health. I don't think I didn't really think, or maybe not realize how many is out there already, other than the mental case. So
Mental Case podcast with Jack Forster, worth a listen.
yeah, totally.
I'm on an episode as well coming up as well, which is slightly giving me a little bit of anxiety about some of the stuff that I said on there, that I'm thinking, oh, people are going to listen to that. But there you go. It's.
I mean, yeah, don't tell me that, because that starts going to give me anxiety. It's like, I don't even know why I'm talking here. And Ian just been so brave to interview me, and I was like, just why? What's the point?
Who do you have any particular role models in your sort of, like, as in professional role models or personal role models?
Ooh,
people that inspire you and that you think I'd look up to.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I don't know if you heard of. I mean, everybody heard of Jay Shetty now, most likely.
Yeah.
When he first started to do all these videos, this was like, oh my god, this is what I wanted to do like 5 years ago, but I was still struggling with even just talking in front of the camera, recording myself. No, because I didn't like my voice and all of that. So it was really difficult to initially get over that bit. But his ideas, the way not the way he lived as a monk, but it was also very interesting. But what he learned from it, so all of his life experiences and the way he puts it out there, it was instantly like, you just thought about all of this before me. Like, you put this all in one. So, but I'm not jealous. I'm not saying that. But he's definitely one of those people where, if they haven't heard of him or not following his work, that he's just a really lovely, genuine guy. And everything he shares it's like, it truly speaks to me, because I pretty much either felt it, or I'm against it, or I'm learning about it, and I want to share that with other people as well, and hopefully helping them along the line too. They will be, as from mental health perspective, or even personal growth, because it's quite a lot. It's not just about overcoming depression and anxiety. It's about how we treating other people, how we're treating ourselves as well. Yeah. Very important.
Yeah, definitely. And I think even more now. I said the week we record this, all the stuff that's happened in America has is happening, and the terrible events of George Floyd killing and the protests after. I'm not going to call them riots. I'm going to call them protests because that's what they are. It's at the moment the world feels like it's about to implode upon itself, and we've got the pandemic, we've got all of the stuff that's going on, and that can, if you've got anxiety, depression, or mental health issues, that can just nag away at you because it just seems doomsday's coming. And I think you need that escape sometimes. You need that someone that you can just look up to or follow or think, I agree with that. And it's a very scary world at the moment, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. In many ways, it started with pandemic, and now George Floyd and everything, and we don't even know what's coming next. And since this year seems to be a big shift in many ways, that hopefully this is also going to be the time of people are reevaluating what they're doing with themselves and how they treating other people. It's quite scary and talk about discrimination as such, and how bad is in America. And I've got some friends over here, thankfully didn't experience anything like that, but from a personal point of view, even coming from a different country, I also experienced in a very mild level. So obviously it's not as extreme as America. It just has everything to the extremes. It's absolutely crazy. But it's quite weird sometimes even see between the British, so even in English people to Scottish or Welsh. It's like, we are just people. We may be born in different parts of the world, but I just genuinely never really understood. And I can even see in a Hungarian, coming from that culture where they are everybody's just so conservative, and we still about 20 years behind from Western culture, I would say, even still. Just judging by my families, even my friends, like that, their mentality it's not helpful for obviously the next generations, because they are growing up and learning about these things the same way, and I was like one of them. And when I grew up and moved, and when I actually moved here, it was an eye-opener in many ways. It wasn't just about looking to some a different culture and learning to live a different way, not just because I need to learn and speak a different language every day, but because of the culture difference. It's just
I think it's I don't think we're I hope this country isn't as bad as it is in America. It feels like it's going that way at some times. We feel like we're moving more and more towards that type of politics and outlook on life. I would never think I'd say this, but I think just bring back Brexit, because that was a lot easier than what we're going through now.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? Did you find
that's the other thing that kind of makes me feel like I'm not wanted here?
I say, did that? I was going to go on to that. So obviously, we had the Brexit debate, and we had that got quite nasty at certain points. It got quite targeted at people that weren't born in this country or people that have come over to work in this country. I'd never understand it. I don't think I will ever understand that mentality that you're not born here, you shouldn't be here. It's like, if people are coming over and they're coming over to live for a better life, if they're coming over to work, if they're coming over here because where they live is so dangerous that they're going to travel in a dinghy across the sea, what position would you have to be in your life for you to do that? I can't comprehend it. Did you find, so you came in 2011, we had 2012, which was the Olympics and all of that, and it felt like the country was in an amazing place. And then it just seemed to fall downhill from that. I watched some of the Olympic opening ceremony, recently on YouTube, and it just reminded me of how we felt so united, and then Brexit came along. When Brexit happened, when the vote came through, and we've gone through that whole torturous process of leaving the EU, did you feel and notice a change of people's attitudes towards you because you're not from this country? You weren't born and bred in Britain. You were from a foreign land. Did you feel it got worse?
No, I honestly didn't feel them be treated any differently. But maybe it's partly because of the area I'm living. The area I live in here now as well. They're all very welcoming towards anybody, and it don't really matter where you are, from this area or from a different parts of the UK or from a different country even. And back in Yorkshire as well, there were parts where this was like back in the day before, well, even before Brexit came along, that it's the certain parts of the country and a certain income areas, and also I think it's again just somehow, I can't speak now. It's it's down to I think it's the individual and the area again, like in terms of if it's so conservative in that way, in like many ways, then they don't really tolerate any other people, even anybody who's not from that particular area, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Never mind from a different country. So I think it's just depending on who you surround yourself with, and how lucky you are maybe at work as well, because at work sometimes you can't, well, most of the time you can't really pick and choose the people you are with. But I must say I've been pretty lucky so far.
Well, no one is born racist. No one is born homophobic. No one is born whatever. We're all taught. It's how you're. I'm very lucky. I was brought up in a conservative house, as in the fact that they are they vote conservative, but as in quite a liberal house, as in the fact that. So I'm a gay man, came out 30 in my 30s, and it was like they were very accepting, all of that sort of stuff. And I think that it does mold you. Your parents mold you. If your parents have if the parents have that belief, it's quite often the child will have that belief. And I'm hoping that we're moving into a better place now with this next generation of people coming up, seeing slightly more liberal, but we will see.
Yeah, I think with internet as well, and it gives you so much and so many different opportunities, and now the podcasts and blogs and YouTube and everything. It's so many channels you can educate yourself, where it's for our parents and their parents, it wasn't the case at all. And I could sit and blame my parents the way they treated me or the upbringing they gave me, but I can also learn from it and look at the way that, like, the exact opposite. So this is what I don't have. This is what I'm definitely not going to do, because no way I'm going to treat my child like that. And take that into a different perspective and learn from it, and stop blaming our parents for any of it, because they just learned what their parents taught them. And back in, like, let's say my parents were born in 1949, so I think it's Generation X, as people call it now. Oh no, so. Actually, that's baby boomers.
Baby boomers, that's it. Yes,
baby boomers. But in terms of what they experienced and the way they brought up, but this is my particular experience. So they weren't really in that baby boomer as the definition of baby boomers is. It more feel like basically a generation before.
Yeah.
So even behind with that generation. So yeah, spend so many years of like blaming them and be depressed about it, and making yourself the victim of everything, and it doesn't make you any good. It's not going to help you. It's not going to help anybody, and you just have to learn to look at things in a different perspective, and take away. And if I would have experienced something else, now I would be a different person, and I appreciate for that experience that I needed to live through in order to be the person I am today. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does, and I think you're very true. I think how you educate yourself is vitally important. A lot of problem with social media at the moment is the fact that you can be in a bubble. You follow the people that you are your interest, or that you agree with, and that can be as dangerous as following people, as sort of following the people that you don't always agree with. You need to mix it up. I think you need to mix up the different opinions. Try and understand what some people are saying. Sometimes they're just beyond help. If you look on Twitter at some of the stuff that's going around at the moment, it's like, oh, just shut up.
Yeah.
But you need to try and understand where they're coming from, and try and not persuade. Well, actually, try and persuade them to live a better life.
Yeah.
Don't be a racist idiot all your life.
Just stop judging people. And again, I can speak from my own experience, because not saying that I was super racist or anything like that, but it's just like judging another person just by, let's say, like the first 2 seconds of meeting them, or judging by a person by someone else telling you something about them.
Yeah.
So you already build up that judgment up front, and it could be 100% that it's going to be totally different what the person actually is, but because of that initial image you're kind of building for yourself, they have to convince you otherwise, and I think that's just ridiculous. And it's for us to learn that you have to stop being so judgmental, and that could be a different colored person, it could be a different person from a different country, maybe similar to your skin color. It shouldn't matter what skin color they are or what their sexual orientation is. One of my best friends, actually, he's gay, and he's the most wonderful, sweetest and funniest person I've ever known. I absolutely love him, and in a circle of friends as well, we all just adore him, and we always have such amazing time. And even just seeing some other people to look towards them in a different eye because of his sexual orientation, I mean, like,
it's
why? It's
I'd love to answer that one. It's a very strange, it's very odd. I judge people for who people are. I don't care, as you said, I don't care what color they are, I don't care what religion they're from, I don't care if they're gay, straight, bi, transgender, whatever. I judge you for who you are, and the person you are, and not try and dump you into that particular category. And I don't like you because you're that. It's a very strange concept. And I don't know, I was bullied at school, and so I have a disdain for bullies, and I think that's probably where a lot of my political thoughts and social thoughts come from, is the fact that I've gone through being bullied at school. I've gone through hiding who I was. I've done all of that. I come out the other end, and it's like, do you know what? Let people be who they want to be. If they're not harming you and they're not trying to stab you or do whatever, let them do what they want to do. If it doesn't affect you, get over it.
Exactly, yeah.
But then when you see a wrong, try and make it right and stand up for what you believe in. This has gone very deep, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, let's talk cameras. So obviously, we'll come back onto cameras. So you don't have a camera at the moment. What are you looking at Are you gonna stick loyal? Or are you gonna go, I'm not having their cameras anymore, I'm gonna go for a Sony?
I don't know. I was actually thinking about this because I really love Olympus cameras. I truly loved using them as well, and it would be more than suitable for my work. I kind of feel emotionally attached to them still. So yeah, partly gave me an anxiety attack yesterday when I was packing everything up in a box. So for that reason, I'm not sure if I would want to have one. But then if it's not Olympus, then I don't know what brand would I choose. I would never choose DSLR. I would definitely have to be mirrorless.
Yeah.
It has to have an app to be able to control, because at the moment all I can do is self-portraiture, and for the work I'm intending to put out as well, that's going to be a supporting element for my message, I was thinking, because photography is still going to be a big part of my life. I'm not going to be stopping taking pictures, really.
Did photography help you with your does it help you with your mental health, getting out? Because I find if I'm not feeling too good out, if I take the camera out and just walk on my own and walk around nature and have the camera, it just sort of allows you to focus on something else and not forget, but just sort of work your way through. Did you find it help with your being out taking photographs, helps with your anxiety to get you into your sort of a safe space almost?
I must admit that I don't really go out. I should really go out much more, since I haven't even explored like the area I'm living in. But sadly, I'm also not going to have a car for a long time. That's the other thing I need to give back, sadly.
Oh, is that a company car as well?
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
dear.
So I'm going to be truly self-isolating from now on, not leaving the house. Because I always found myself taking pictures of people, I didn't really feel the urge. Also, I do enjoy a good walk. I used to live nearby, lived in Ilkley as well, in West Yorkshire. And if you've been to Ilkley Moors, it's just beautiful and very windy, but lovely, and really nice to get some fresh air. But in terms of helping me to get over some of my personal issues, I think it's massively helped with stay with depression, and even building self-confidence through just taking images of myself, because I never really felt comfortable in front of the camera. So that was another thing to kind of push myself out of the comfort zone and be creative, and kind of practice. If I would then shoot with a model, then I know that like what kind of lighting situation works, and I can take all my time really with myself. I don't have to be feeling bad about the person that just make a bloody decision. Like I would just take pictures, like millions, and maybe out of say 600 I would just pick who's like maybe I like that one, maybe, and then discard the rest of them.
I don't know if it's just me, but I find photographers really hate having their photo taken.
Yeah,
I do. I hate it. I hate my photo being taken. Absolutely hate it. It's one of the worst things in the world is to have my photo taken. But then I will gladly take photos of everybody else. It's very strange, isn't it?
But you're just so judgmental and critical about yourself. Like you want to see yourself in a certain way, and this is when I'm thinking about photo shoots, or even just want to do an idea with myself. Then I imagine this, like this is exactly how it's supposed to look like, and it's the same. It's the kind of thing like people say or post nowadays. Is it Instagram vs reality? And you've got this idea that this is how amazing it's going to look like, and then you got reality, and it's like nowhere near. And you just have to work on it until you manage to find it. But yeah, I think we're just super judgmental.
There's a filter on it's either Snapchat or TikTok or something like that, where it shows you as people see you, because obviously you only ever look at yourself in a mirror, so you only ever see a reflection of yourself, and there's this filter that turns it around, and that's how people see you, and you can see people suddenly go, what, that's completely different to how I imagine myself. Yeah,
my God.
I think it's either on Snapchat or TikTok or something like that, but there's a filter on there, and it flips it around. It's like, this is how you see how other people see you. And it's that self-portrait thing. It's like, no, that's why I don't do selfies. I hate selfies.
Yeah, I don't do selfies. I can't like pose in the mirror and like take
you see people walking down the street and they're like that all the time. And I think, oh, get over yourself.
Yeah, not me. But if it's something which is more creative, there is some meaning to it. It's about different light patterns. It's it's something about it rather than just like
cheese.
Yeah.
Cheesy pose. How can people follow you on social media, etc.?
Well, Instagram, it's sadly it's my full name, so good luck spelling that. It's at Krisztina Kobanyai. I trust that you can put it in the description,
yes,
and the people actually can see it.
Yeah, I'll put a link to your Instagram in the video description, the podcast description.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on Twitter, but I don't really do much on there. Just downloaded TikTok. I haven't done anything there, so don't bother.
Oh, well, look forward to saying goodbye to hours of your life. Not filming it. Honestly, it is one of the worst apps to waste hours, because you'll sit there and you'll watch a video and it'll be like, oh, that's good. Next. This morning, and no word of a lie, on this Sunday morning, because it's pouring down rain, I think I spent an hour and a half on TikTok.
Wow.
And it's just like, right, next. That's quite funny. Yeah, I like that. Next. Yeah. Look forward to losing a lot of time.
Yeah. I mean, I just opened it up because everybody's on it. It's so trendy. It's like, okay, see what is this about, and see if we can actually create some sort of creative videos, or like what's the like filters and things. And then it just throws you random videos. You don't even open it up, and it just comes down in the notification there, almost like somebody is sending you a personal message. It's like, you can't even escape from this.
It's also, it will learn exactly what you find funny and exactly what you like within about a week.
Scary.
Yeah, it is really. It just shows you. It shows you people that you actually think, yeah, I quite enjoy their videos, or it'll show you if you watch a lot of cat videos or dog videos. There's loads of husky videos, so dogs as in huskies. And I think I watched a couple of them, and now every time I go on, it's just videos of huskies.
I think it might be my cat's channel then. So
yes.
if I start making funny cat videos, then that's going to be the place to go.
Definitely. So yeah, I'll put a link down to your Instagram below. Krisztina, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. It's been a really enjoyable conversation, and really good fun as well. So Krisztina, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I hope that people find it interesting and maybe learn something from it.
Thank you very much. And there we are, another episode of the podcast done. Thank you so much to Krisztina for joining us. A really interesting conversation, and I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the show. Don't forget, you can click on the subscribe and follow button on your podcast app to get an episode every single time we release one, normally Monday mornings at 6 a.m. And if you're watching on YouTube, then click on like, comment, subscribe and share, and all the usual stuff that you do. If you want to find out more about the podcast, then go to drakeottphotography.co.uk/podcast. Follow me on Twitter at IanHRP, and follow the podcast on Twitter at AsYetUnnamedPod. So until the next episode, thank you so much for listening and downloading and watching. I have been Ian Barstow. This has been the As Yet Unnamed podcast. Until next time, bye for now.